Hello, I am Terry A. Webb, a counseling instructor here at Cuyahoga Community College Metropolitan Campus. Today I'm going to talk to you about note-taking. This is a skill that everyone needs to be adequate to very good at, regardless of being in school or not. Notes help us keep ourselves on track, these constant reminders, and it helps us to focus on really what is important. So as we go into this presentation today, hopefully you will be presented with some information that will help you become a better note taker, or at least consider the importance of taking notes. And as we progress along, why should we even take notes at all? Taking notes helps the student to concentrate in class. I know for myself personally, when I'm writing, I'm engaged with what is being presented verbally, as well as how I'm writing. And taking notes develops a sense of listening because it forces you to listen to everything that is going on and recognize main ideas. And recognizing main ideas could be from repetition of the instructor or voice or modulation of tone. You can catch on to these things by listening, and you can record them down on paper. And it also makes the student an active participant in the learning process rather than sitting as a passive listener. As most of us do not like to just sit and be talked to over and over again or lectured at, but when we take notes, we're engaged, we're involved, and we're actually participating in the process. And also, most assuredly and most importantly for the student, it helps them prepare for exams and quizzes. And notes often contain information that generally is not found in a textbook. When you're preparing for a test, it is essential that you pay attention to what the instructor views or repeats or says is important. And if you're like me, sometime when I'm teaching, I will even say hint, hint, to let the students know that you're going to see this again some way, shape, or form. Notes are also often valuable clue for what the instructor thinks is important, what I just said. If the instructor takes the time to write it out, it is important. And taking notes in class means that you're working the information and processing it every day. You're not just passively listening or recording information, you're interacting with it. And that's important. That's key to remembering what it is you're doing and gaining understanding, or at least gaining the ability to be able to ask the questions that most need to be asked. But before you go to class to take notes, one must consider it is essential that you arrive on time for class, sit as near to the front of the room as possible to eliminate distractions. I know that some of us like to sit in the back of the room, but sitting in the front also helps you not go to sleep, also helps you not play around or do anything that would distract you from learning. And before you enter any class, it is essential that you have read the assigned readings before coming to class. You need to have some type of background information before you enter the class so that you'll know what the instructor is talking about, so that you'll see those linkages, those patterns, those sequences. All this stuff will start to manifest because you have some prior knowledge of what is going to be lectured on that day. And it will make note-taking more beneficial to you because then you will understand that you don't need to write down everything that's being said. And see, this is the mistake that a lot of people do. You don't need to write down everything that's being said. Listen actively, listen attentively to what is being presented, and then write down the key points. Look for the repetition again. Look for things that the instructor may say that give you a clue that this is important. You need to understand this. You need to write this down. Some may even go as far as to say, hey, we're going to write this. You need to write this down. Pay attention while you're in the lecture. And this also too will help you not be as sleepy as some are. It will also too help you not daydream as some do. I've done that one. And before class, make a list of questions from the reading. That would necessitate you doing prior planning. When you're reading and you're reading it for the first time before class, which it is always good to review the text or the reading material before class, make a list of questions. Professors love questions. And ask questions that are pertinent to the topic of the things you don't understand. And then when the question is responded to, then you write this down because this is a point of high interest or something that you need to know from the information. And review your notes from a previous lecture. You sometimes can gain great knowledge and understanding by reviewing what was stated or presented in the previous lecture. It is essential that you look back over your notes. Now, in looking back over your notes, I strongly recommend that you rewrite them. Not in shorthand as you may have previously in class from rushing, but rewrite them out the long way. Make them into questions. Do what you need to do to make sure you can retain the information from the previous class. And then review them before you go in. Look at it this way. I like to look at it this way. We all have been to the doctor. And you notice the doctor always reviews your chart before they enter into the examination room. Or at least you hope they do. And then they proceed to come in and they can talk to you because they have some knowledge of what happened or transpired previously. You should do the same with your notes. Your notes are important. They're your notes. And also, with that being said, it's not easy to look at someone else's notes and be able to understand everything the way that you need to. That's why it's essential that you're present in class as much as possible, if not all the time. My friend's notes may not look like mine. The points that were important to me that I needed to remember may not even be on his or her in his or her notes. So we need to make it a point to be present in class, physically, emotionally, and psychologically, to be present in class and actively engaged in taking notes. That's why it's essential to have them and review them. And as a precursor to being present in class, accept the fact that your mind wanders and find ways to help your mind not wander. Notice your writing. I know that I've been victimized by this. When my attention span starts to wane, or if I start to nod off, my handwriting becomes incredibly illegible, and I can't understand nothing I wrote. So it is important that you be with the instructor. Follow the instructor with your eyes, your ears, listen, write down. Notice your environment. Be aware of what's going on. If it's hot in there, don't wear a big bulky sweater. Heat sometimes makes people sleep. If it's cool, wear something you can take off. Dress in layers. Postpone debate. Don't be so quick to argue with an instructor or a classmate about a point until you fully understand what the point is. I'm not saying don't engage in that, because I like to have debates in classes I'm teaching too. But make sure that it's postponed to the point that all the information has been relayed to you and has been recorded. And let go of judgments. Don't judge information just from the first go round. Give it a chance to soak in for a little bit, and just take this information in, record it, and see what it is, and participate. In taking class, being present helps you to take good notes, because your mind is not on the other side of town. It's in the classroom. And relate class to your goals. If nothing, your goal should be to graduate from an illustrious institution such as Cuyahoga Community College. So in that class, you have an ultimate goal of obtaining a degree in something. So that class relates some kind of way, and think critically. Interact with the text and the lecture and everything, and record down the parts that you have problem with. Record down the parts that you understand. Don't be afraid to write down things, but once again, to relay what I said previously, don't write down everything in a lecture, because everything doesn't need to be in your notes. That's a tape recording. And if all possible, to bring this up, I know some people do this, always ask your instructor, can you make a audio or video recording of the lecture? Don't assume that it is okay. You have to receive permission. Well, I'm not going to say you have to, but it is strongly suggested that you receive permission before you audio or videotape someone for later, use of that, and even in the academic environment without prior permission, okay? And be alert. I'm going back over this again in class. Be alert to repetition. Listen for introductory, concluding, and transition words. Watch the board or PowerPoint. PowerPoints are designed to have bullets. That means that these points are super important for what is being discussed. If nothing, they're the beginning of an outline to let you know what's going on. Watch your instructor's eyes. Highlight obvious clues. And notice instructor's interest level. One good thing that you can do, and I know everybody's not an auditory learner. I was taking a class one time, and this guy really got excited about a subject that we were on. And you could tell that I think this is what he did his dissertation on. Oh, he was just excited. He was, oh, this is awesome, and this is this, and this is this. Guess what the test was? All the stuff that he was excited about. So we need to make it a point that if it's something that the instructor is excited about and they're repeating it and they're going over and over and over it again, that means that you need to learn this. Pay attention to what is going on in the classroom. Don't be afraid to engage the class. That helps you take focused notes. Because I know that day I suffered because I really wasn't paying attention. You have to not make all the same mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss things. I'm not excusing that. But what I'm saying is that pay attention to someone's body language when they're presenting information. If they're upbeat and they're talking and their voice gets real strong and they repeat and they throw their voice out there like that, that's something that's super important. And it may be something that is a high percentage going to be on your final or one of the tests that is coming up. So you need to make it a point to be actively engaged and be present in class. And during class, have your paper or pencil or pen ready. Now, I know that no one in college would ever do this, but I've heard rumors that there are students that actually go to class and don't have anything to write with. And sometimes I've even heard rumors that they don't even have the books. And I'm not saying that anyone here would ever do such a thing. I've even heard rumors that there are people that don't even go to class regularly. I haven't witnessed this firsthand yet, but I've heard this, and I do hope that this is not you. Someone that would go to class expecting to glean knowledge from a highly trained, degreed, and educated professor, and you don't bring anything to record the information that they're sending to you. You also don't even come. Now, copy everything the instructor writes on the board is not a good idea, but do not forget the outline. If the instructor writes something on the board and it's not voluminous, you need to make it a point that you record that somewhere, and especially the outlines. That is an essential element for you to start to piece together what could or possibly be on a test, possibly on an examination after you graduate. Instructors are very good at relaying information to you. We have some of the best there is here, and they're experts in their field. Respect that. They're taking time out to share with you knowledge that you would not be able to get necessarily anywhere else. So when they write something down, you need to make it a point to paraphrase or at least copy it in a manner that you will be able to recall it. And be an active listener and pay attention to instructors' verbal cues. His choice of words might indicate the importance of the information. For example, some examples of that would be, most importantly, the result is, finally. These are things that you should be listening for. And also, notes during class. Use your own words summarizing what the instructor is saying. If it's verbal, if it's off the board, copy it. And then you can translate it later if you need to. But if you're writing something down someone is saying, use your own words. This is why it's not necessarily a good idea to copy someone else's notes. So use your own words when you're writing something down for you to reflect back on later on. As we know, sometimes in academia, a student is hurried in writing it down. That's why it's so crucial for you to use your own words so that you'll be able to recall it from the context clues that you normally write in. And be clear and complete in your notes. Leave a question mark by information that is unclear, so when you go back to review it, as you should before the next lecture, you will know what questions to ask or where to research further to go on before you go on into the next class. And later, go back and check with your instructor. If there's ever any point that you don't understand, if there's ever a time that things are not, I've heard a student say, I can't parlay it into my mind. And this is a quote, this is not me. I can't parlay it into my mind. I'm reading it, I'm writing it, I'm just not getting it. And I just simply asked her, have you communicated with your instructor? She went blank and said, no. Your instructors are here to help you. If you ever get to a point in your notes or your text or in the lecture that you just draw a blank, indicate it with a question mark. Take that to the instructor during office hours or arrange an appointment and ask. It is your responsibility as a college student to not expect to be spoon-fed information. It is your responsibility and your obligation to be able to go out and seek a means of understanding, using the resources here, using the Learning Center, using the Counseling Center, using student support services, using everything here to help you succeed such that one day you will earn that degree. So talk to your instructors. And after class, revise, rewrite, I mentioned that early, as quickly after class as possible. We all heard that show, The Next 48. After about 48 hours, by what they're saying on these shows, you start to lose what it is that you wrote down. Try to do it as quick as possible. Rewrite what you did today in class. And coordinate your readings and lecture notes. If you're reading out of a text, coordinate that with the lecture notes. Look for a sequence and context clues. Look for connections. Try to connect the dots with what is taught in class and what is actually in a textbook. And that'll help you synthesize what's most important. And review notes at least once a week, and also review them every time before the next lecture. And taking notes while reading. Condense into questions. When you read a section, condense into key quotes. Condense by paraphrasing. Use the table of contents. It's your friend. It lets you know what's coming. And if you're doing research, use index cards. Use a computer. And I have to forewarn you, in using a computer, please don't use everything word for word from a computer, and be careful that the site is an academic site. And be sure to be able to cite where you got that information from, or where the site that you're citing got the information from. Okay? So take notes while you're reading. And online class. This was something that didn't exist when I was in undergraduate school, but I'm used to the brick and mortar. But online education is here to stay. And we need to make it a point that when we're taking notes in online classes, that we actively engage in what is expected of us. Contact students on the blogs, get feedback online from your instructor or other students. And be sure you're focused, because it takes discipline to do an online class. Use specialized help tools, manage your time and tasks carefully, and ask for help. When you get to a point in an online class where you're not understanding what is going on, ask for help. Take responsibility for your actions. Use folders and files to organize your notes, your assignments and everything. And most of all, take notes. Get active. Have a contingency plan. And with online classes, everything's done online. What happens if your laptop crashes or gets a virus? Have a contingency plan. Do a trial run of that contingency plan. What do you plan to do if things don't go out quite right? So, in summary, what I really want to say is that when you're taking notes, actively engage. Pay attention to what is being said in class. Pay attention to how it's being said. Pay attention to what is being repeated. Pay attention to your own body, such that if you know that you're tired, you need to do things to help yourself stay focused. Be present in the here and now in class. Be certain that the things that are being said by your instructor, they're important. Don't try to marginalize or minimize them. They're important, because the test questions may be the very same thing that was stated in class. And make it a point to always be in class and always be present. And I know no one listening to this would ever say that they've ever come to class without books, pens, pencil, or paper. But make it a point that if you know someone like that, that you encourage them to go to class on time, every time, sit near the front, and to bring supplies such that they can get as much out of the lecture, the experiment, or whatever educational process is transpiring, such that they will be better for being there than if they were not. So, with all that being said, be careful and take good notes, because notes last a lifetime. I refer back to notes I took 5-10 years ago. Notes are important, and you need to make it a point to have a clear, succinct way of recording what is the highlights and the most important parts of lectures and everything that you're doing. Take care.